Welcome to this edition of What Matters with me, Educator. And today my guest is the phenomenal Coco Murray. I'm super excited to have her here. I've been trying to keep myself together all day. Thank you for coming, Coco.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Appreciate it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, but she'd be better at telling you about her than I will. But I'm going to tell you a little bit of the bio that I read. So interesting. So when I was speaking to Coco on the phone, I said, so you're a dance teacher? And she's like, no, I don't use that term. I'm a dance educator. So that's one of the things we're going to be delving into today is what is the difference between a dance teacher and a dance educator? Now, Coco specializes in the art of African dance. So it's dances from, I see here, West Africa, South Africa, the Caribbean, all parts, diaspora. Right? The diaspora, exactly. Mm-hmm. And Coco is Toronto born. So she has been doing this for quite a long time. I don't know. Do I give it out? I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
It's okay.
I see here in her bio 15 years. Now looking at you,
I think it's longer.
It's longer.
It's much longer.
You can never tell with people because they don't look like they've been doing anything for 15 years. So she's been doing this for 15 years, and she, like I said, she specializes in dance forms from West Africa, South Africa, the Caribbean, and Afrobeat styles. Now Coco also has a BA in sociology and special honors BA in race, ethnicity, thank you, and in
indigeneity.
What is that?
That has to do with the indigenous identity. It's a whole
this is
stem
amazing.
Of studies, yes.
Oh, and she is summa cum laude.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that I found fascinating in reading Coco's bio is that she has honors in degrees that I didn't even know existed. So hopefully for all the young people out there that have interest in this subject matter, you'll see that there's many, many different directions that you can go in. So I thought that was really interesting. So now I'm going to let Coco, who knows herself way better than I do, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, I would probably categorize myself as a portfolio artist.
Okay.
Because I wear so many hats. Dance performance is one, research is another, as well as doing community arts programming. And I'm now a contributing writer for a national dance magazine, The Dance Current, so writing as well. So multiple hats.
Multiple hats.
Multiple
now,
hats.
You mentioned dancing and researching one after the other. Now, obviously, these tie in to each other for what you do. And exactly what do you research?
What I tend to research like right now, I'm doing a professional development project. So I've been traveling to work with my mentors. Part of that research is having to be delved into the culture, understand some of the nuances, train with my master teachers, learn the specific styles, ask questions, learn about why do we do what we do and why is this happening. So it's beyond reading a book. It's more of a master teacher student, like apprenticeship sort of relationship, working with different teachers, because that's how we transfer knowledge within the diaspora.
Exactly, the transfer of knowledge. So before we continue, I want to give you a bit of a flavor for what Coco does. Now, you know what, Anisha, I was going to say the Toronto Gardens one, but you can, if you want to play that one, or you can play another. I just want to give you a little clip of Coco performing. Was that the Coco? Was that the whole group, or was what I just named?
That's some members of the Coco Collective.
Okay.
And then I was performing a solo at that point.
Okay. So the Toronto Gardens is something I recently discovered, and it's one of my new favorite places in the world. I love it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's the Botanical Gardens of Toronto. So you were performing there this summer. So that's just to give you an idea of the types of performances that you do, because I know that there are many. Now, it goes so far beyond dancing. And one of the things that you spoke about when we spoke on the phone is, and you just mentioned it, it's that connection, it's that telling of the story. And something else you mentioned frequently when I was looking through your site is the intergenerational aspect. So it's our history, but it's also our future, right? Going forward, it ties everything together. And when you perform with people of all ages, correct?
I work and collaborate with multiple artists of different ages.
Okay, and so in terms of sharing our story or the telling of stories, this is a very big subject. I don't know if this is the place to go a minute before, but we'll start it. In terms of us telling our stories, now, African dance, it is an art form, right? It's a form of communication. Stories are told.
It's one of the ways we tell our stories.
One of the ways. Now, is it through the motions, or is it through singing, the words? What is it? How is the story told?
Well, first I will say African dance itself, that's sort of a misnomer.
Okay.
Because it's sort of like a monogamous category, because there's so many styles of dance.
Absolutely.
So basically, regional styles of dances. There's so many different countries, ethnic groups, styles of dances. So that's just a Western title that we put.
Right.
But there's so much more layers to unpack with what it is. In terms of how we tell our stories, we can tell our stories through non-verbal communication. So within the context of the West African styles of dances that I've learned, we have that call and response.
Okay, yes, I think I've seen that.
Right, so it could be orality through song or through storytelling, through narratives, but also through movement and rhythm, because there's that musical relationship between the two.
Right.
So that's kind of what we convey. And also because each rhythm that we've studied has a name and a meaning and why it's done for a particular ethnic group.
Oh, wow. I see.
Yes. So if a rhythm is playing, it's not playing for just playing
the sake of the rhythm.
Even though we have teachers that went transnationally and have taught around the world, people are doing it more for celebratory reasons. But when you go back and contextualize it to a village or village context, it was done traditionally for a particular reason.
Right. Okay. So
yeah.
Everything has a very specific meaning, and you're saying that what we often observe here in North America is kind of the commercial version.
You see a variety of things. You would see people engage in the art form because they're attracted to the vibration of the drum. You would see people. For us, it's more cultural practice. Us as artists, it's a cultural practice that we want to learn and understand from our teachers. And we want to continue it and share that with other generations, just as the teachers do with us. So there's many reasons why people are attracted to it, but we get to and delve into the core of what it means and why, and I try to use the education as a route and different entry points to get that to different audiences.
Yeah. Okay, we have to go for a break, but when we come back from the short break, we'll be back with Coco Murray, the dance phenomenon.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back to What Matters, and I'm here today with my guest, Coco Murray, dance educator. So, tell me a little bit, what exactly is dance education? Because like I said, it wasn't like dramatic, but I said, dance teacher. She's like, no, I'm not a dance teacher. And looking through the bio, I see that it really goes beyond just teaching dance moves.
Yes.
Absolutely. So explain to me, what is dance education?
Dance education would be, you want to develop performance skill sets.
Okay.
You want to transfer knowledge either through research or through, in our example, lived experience.
Right.
So it goes beyond just simply moving for a recreational purpose, maybe moving for, I want to do some fitness, like I have a fitness goal,
right.
Or I just have a hobby, I just like to dance. For those of us who are engaged in dance education, it's about learning techniques of movement, learning the social, the history, the significance, the why, the what. So you're going into more of like a curriculum within your performance skill building.
Okay. I understand that, because I do have, you specify, and like you said, saying African dance is like a general term, and it really doesn't encompass what you do, but that kind of gives you a feeling of where we're going. I have some friends that were professional dancers in the hip hop genre, and a lot of people think you get up, it's a natural talent, and you just tick and you bob and whatever. But the discipline that it takes, and the techniques, and watching them teach classes abroad, seeing, and like you said, when you have two African Canadians, if you will, going to Japan to teach hip-hop dance. And it's, like you said, it's a very specific skill set. It's not just follow me and you do it. And there's teaching and there's writing. And, a lot of people think I'm writing in dance class because it's a very specific skill set. So dance education is more than taking it on as a hobby.
Yes, you're going beyond being a dance enthusiast who wants to delve and maybe drop into class and try something out. Like, we're looking at the discipline, we want to retain the knowledge, and we're using that knowledge to further share and transfer in other ways as performers.
Amazing. So when you're saying sharing the knowledge and telling stories, and that's something that I understand, because you say so much without actual words. Most of what we say to one another is actually done without language. So when you say sharing our stories, one, which stories, and who is the intended audience? What is the intent when you're learning this? Who are you intending to share these stories with?
My answer would be multifaceted.
Okay.
Because my mandate is to share and transfer all of the different cultural knowledges that I have access to other individuals who do not have access to it. Predominantly to generations of African Canadians. We could be born here, just like myself, and not have any relationship to those artistic expressions. We come from families that may not have access. Even though we may immigrate from other parts of the world, some people may have access to it and may not have been interested. They just look at it as entertainment, entertain for me. But for those who really want to learn the art form, it's let's get those who really would like to delve into the reason why this is happening and learn. We got to transfer this knowledge and keep the legacy going. So I'm just a conduit. That's just a knowledge sharer.
I love that.
And then when I educate, you want to get the younger generation to continue this legacy, because once I'm not here, who's going to be those proteges? Who's going to be the next generation coming up to continue this momentum and keep it going, as our teachers have done for us? So it's about that whole pattern of master, teacher, student, apprenticeship, past transfer knowledge. That's what I've learned from the communities. So I try to continue that in a different way. But we do live in a Western world, and we have a Western framework. So yes, I have to purchase my knowledge, because I don't have elders who just are going to give it to me. Right? It's commercialized. So I do have to be a consumer and purchase this knowledge, but I try to create art-based experience where it's subsidized for others who don't have access, even though I may travel in the world and get the knowledge, come back and give it and share it that way. So I try different ways to do that, to bring it and make it accessible for others.
And when you're sharing these stories, like let's say you go to pick a West African country. Senegal. So you go to Senegal and you come back, and your mandate is to share that knowledge with whomever wishes to receive it. I love that.
I will be going to Guinea next month, again, to train some teachers. So again, it's all about that one-on-one or community network. They see me as a conduit they trust. They see the work that I do, and then I come back and try to find different ways through my programming, what I create, to either share with generations of the Black community or even multi-ethnic audiences, because I perform everywhere for everybody, because you want them to have an intercultural understanding of what we do and see our positive contributions than to just generalize what they feel we are.
I love that. And let's take another look at what she does live in person. Will you play another clip for us, Anissa? That I'm interested in, because you mentioned different areas of Africa, but also the Caribbean. And I used to sell vinyl records. That was one of the things that I did. And one of the things I loved the most was speaking to the buyers on the other end. And we had a huge Calypso collection, huge. Calypso and soca. And even though my parents are Caribbean, I was born here, and I feel very connected to my community. It was through them that I learned the difference between soca and calypso. One's very political. One was the let's party, let's, just get over this. But the other was the telling of the stories, of the trials and the tribulations. And even with reggae, a lot of people know the genre just as reggae. But then if you know, there's your dance hall, there's your conscious, there's your rockers, there's your... So it's many, even though it's generalized,
there's diversity within those genres.
And it's because of that I know about that I'm understanding what you're saying about the differences in the purpose of the beats that we hear and the songs that we hear. And someone like me that just loves to hear, Nigerian music will just, oh, that's cool. But you now will take that much further and teach me what it is that I'm hearing and its value and the story behind it and its purpose. Is that right? Am I on the right track?
You're on the right track.
Oh, on the right track. Yes. So when you talk about understanding knowledge, cultural knowledge in the diaspora, now, I think for our community, it gets complicated.
Yes. Yes.
To say the least, it gets complicated. Because we look different visually, you can tell that we belong to this diaspora, but where we came from, how we got here, the route we took to get here is all very different, right? And so when you say understanding cultural knowledge of the diaspora, can you break that down for me? Can you explain it?
Okay, so that for me is my ongoing work. Basically, we can't stay within our silos. We need to step out of our silos and have an understanding of the diversity and the differences with all of the languages, the cultures, the ethnic groups, the countries that we're all over the world. We're a global people, and we come from indigenous peoples from Africa. We are multi-ethnic because we have multiple ethnicities and multiple races that are in our family. I'm Guyanese, so I have more than one ethnic group in my family. So when I mean by understanding knowledge in the diaspora, it means that even though, let's say, for example, I'm born in Canada, I'm not going to just assume the national identity of just being Canadian. I have cultural nuances that stem from other parts of the globe. We are able to retain that as we live here on these lands. And because of that, I would like people to understand there's diversity and peel those layers. There's so much to know about the Black experience because it's not the same. Right. For African Canadians who have generations of families here in Canada, even though we're on Indigenous lands, their experience is completely different to mine, even though I'm born here too.
Exactly.
And if I'm speaking to an African American, depending on which part, they're going to have a different experience. If I go to different islands, if I go to South America, different experience. If I go to Europe, if I go to the Congo, if I go to South Africa.
If you go to
anywhere,
Nova Scotia.
Anywhere, yes. So it's about understanding what that is. Because there's different knowledge systems, there's different ways we operate. We may have melanin, but we all have differences. So it's important for us to understand what those differences are so we can respect each other a little bit more and understand each other a bit more.
I really like that idea of, by learning each other's differences, gaining more respect for one another. And I love that take on it because a lot of people not a lot of people, I don't like to generalize too much, but there seems to be a sect of people that believe that, just kind of try to blend it. Just get in the melting pot and leave all your
That's
ethnic
a Western
stuff,
framework to assimilate and to conform.
Right.
But we all want to retain our heritages. Can we not? We're in a time where we can share all of that with each other,
right.
Even more so, even because of technology. We can connect to other parts of the globe even faster to learn things me and you never had access to because we didn't have that medium when we were growing up. So there's a lot more connections that can happen and a lot more understanding that can happen. So let's understand those differences so we can respect each other.
I agree 100%. And that's one of the things I love about being born where I am. I mean, I was born in Montreal, but being from a multicultural community with different people, and a lot of people were first-generation Canadians.
Like myself.
Parents, exactly. Their parents immigrated here. And because it was such a small area and there were so many different people, we learned from one another, and it was a strength. It wasn't a takeaway. It was a strength. And at a very early age, I understood a bit about Italian culture and Indian culture and Greek culture and eating different. That was one of the best parts about being in a multicultural society, by the way, is the food. The food.
Yes.
But different music, different language, and being comfortable with it. We've spoken past our break time, so we will be right back after this break.
Hello, my name is Anisha, and I'm the production manager of TCN Network. Have you ever wanted to host your own show? Do you have a message to share? Well, you're in luck. We are looking for dynamic and unique individuals to host their own shows. We are CTNTV.com. We're here to educate, support, and build the community. Can you lead by example? Go the extra mile and seek knowledge? Are you humble, disciplined, responsible, selfless, and enthusiastic? Those are our core values. And if you identify with them, you could be part of a growing network that focuses on positivity and uplifting our community. We can't wait for you to join us on TCN Network and hope to hear from you soon.
I love it. Isn't that absolutely amazing? I can't even hear the sound in the studio and the energy that you radiate. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you for doing what you do. So we were talking about, teaching ourselves, teaching our own, more about the different parts of us. And, the people who look like you but come from such a different origin, but yet the same. And one of my questions, I have lots of questions. That's what I do. One of my questions is, well, first of all, did you hear about the play they had in Montreal called Slav?
I have.
You have.
Yes.
So for anyone who hadn't heard about it, first of all, you need to rewind and go back to my 3rd episode ever when my friend Kim Dominic Ferguson was on, and he was one of the main protesters, or he was one of the organizers and very involved in the protest of Slav. And what Slav was, it was a play musical that was going on during the Montreal Jazz Fest, one of the biggest jazz festivals in the world.
Yes.
And the issue with Slav, which is really slave, was that it was written up as a cultural narrative. It was told via slave songs, but the problem was that the people playing the slaves were white, and the main character was white, and she was at one point, I believe, representing Harriet Tubman. So the community in Montreal, and it wasn't just black people, it was a variety of people, got together and said, you know what, this isn't right. And in order for our story to be told, an important part would be us having a part in telling of that story. And I'm very happy to say that they were able to get the play to stop running. But I believe next up on deck is another play about indigenous
First Nations
people again, being played by white people. So there seems to be a disconnect between the understanding that we do want our stories to be told, but we would like to be involved in the telling of that story, because you see, our story has been told, but it isn't the right story. And when your story gets written by someone else, and that's why they say be the author of your life, because if you let someone else write your story, you may not like the ending or how it's depicted and the great things they leave out and the things that they add in. So I know you say you try to stay away from the too political side, but
I do write about it too.
You
I
do?
have been asked to write about it.
She writes about it, so here we go. So what did you think about Slav and the idea of the caste and so forth? How did you feel about that?
Of course, I've seen this narrative before. My take on it is, and my position on this is, we do need to tell our stories. We have lived in a Western framework where a dominant narrative has been given to us, where we didn't see representations of ourselves. We were supposed to conform and assimilate.
Any positive representations of ourselves.
Right. So because of that dominant master narrative throughout our in-schooling experience, as artists, I see now more so that people are rising up against this and they're speaking out. We're not being silenced about this matter anymore. We don't have an issue with anyone partaking and engaging and interacting with our mediums and our stories. But when it comes down to who decides to tell our stories, I believe that we should be consulted. And it kind of parallels with some of what the indigenous communities are saying on these lands, and globally too. We have the right to self-determine. We have stories and we have ancestries and knowledge bases too. So we want to tell our stories. People have written our history and erased us from our history. So we would like to tell our stories. So in this particular instance, it's going to be received in an unpleasant way, that where's the representation of us, and you're using songs that were depicting a time that was really painful for our ancestors.
Yeah.
And you want to use that to represent and create an entertainment experience without even speaking to the community. You're not thinking about the backlash or the ethical ramifications of telling said story and what it means for the community. So I think that we should really refrain from that.
Very well. You should
just refrain. Like, we really have to think about the ethical ramifications. Whose story is that? You can't decide someone's will for them and tell their story. It wasn't as if I'm telling the story to bring light. We know what slavery is. We know. We've read about it. So this representation is for what purpose? That's what I would ask that cast and that particular producer. Now that he's going to go and do the same thing with indigenous communities, they had an uproar because there was a consultation that took place, but that was just probably for appearance, because you went ahead and decided to go ahead without inclusion of members of said community that you're representing. This is ethically something that is going to have an uproar.
Absolutely. And you see it across mediums. I mean, it's not just with the African diaspora. It's also something you see a lot in North America is with the Asian diaspora, where you have white actors playing, you have a movie about Asians and everyone in it is white. And it makes you wonder, well, how are you telling their story, but nobody is included? It would just be like men writing a story about women and childbirth and how they feel. And it's not to say you can't observe and you don't have an opinion and you don't have a thought. But I think in order to speak about, childbearing stories, you might want to speak to someone who bore a child.
Yes.
I think that you have to
include, a collaboration needs to happen.
Even at least a collaboration.
A conversation, yes. And then see how the community feels. And if you can collaborate and tell that story together, that will be more well received.
Absolutely.
Than exclusion, and then I'm going to present my narrative
of what I think you went through. Of what I believe you went through. And there would be so much learning in that as well. I think there would be so much learning for both parties in that, because you get to see what the other person's thinking. So in that vein, in that train of thought, another question I would have for you would be, for example, you were saying, it's for the audience at large, and anyone who enjoys it may become a may pick that up as a hobby or so forth. But how do you feel about other ethnicities? I don't say that word well, do I? Ethnicities, thank you. I'm going to practice that. Ethnicities practicing African dance.
I live it all the time. I teach non-Black audiences. I've taken classes where all ethnic groups and not different races are in the room. Different responses happen. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I think for me, my positionality is I don't have a problem with it. I think where the community will have a problem is when you decide to take the lead and feel that you're an expert and present the work, excluding the teachers, the community, the generations on which it actually belongs to. Yes, movement evolves. We can work together. I've collaborated with many artists who are not Black, but we've worked together doing West African dance and drum experiences. I have no problem with that. So there's people who actually do want to learn, and they actually do want to study, and they do want to train. I don't have an issue with that. Collaborations, working with people, it's what you represent.
Right.
So for me, and it's not that it's an equal level playing field. If I went into another community, let's say to learn their cultural art form, and then I decide to study in it, it may not be well received by that original community. It depends. It depends on the climate, the political climate, how that community feels. Not to say that you can't partake and learn and study it. It just depends on how you're well received and accepted into said community.
And I think also too in the retelling of that story, as you said, because we have a lot of back and forth on what is considered a Black hairstyle, or Black music, or why are you taking our music? And as you said, things evolved. But I think the issue really is when the originating group are not
acknowledged or recognized for their contributions.
What they've done is negated. Like there's a lot of things that I would see that, for example, nails, hairstyles, body types that Black women have been doing for the longest time, and it was tucked aside and, those loud, crazy, long, colorful nails, that's ghetto. Or, that body shape looks strange. And then when someone else introduces it,
it becomes a trend.
It's a trend and it's a rage.
And it's positively received.
And it's positive. Like when I heard the phrase, the Kardashian braids, I think it killed several braiders. We will be right back after this break. much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, I'm caught by a surprise. I don't know what clips they're
I just
showing.
pick stuff and then, So actually, tell me just a little bit about that trip to Trinidad. That's one of my bucket list things. I have to go to Carnival in Trinidad at least one time.
Yes. So yes, that is a Carnival trip is completely different to what I experienced.
Okay.
I went specifically for multiple reasons, but I wanted to experience Emancipation Day.
Okay, that's what that was.
Yes. So that's the Emancipation Parade on August 1st. And I actually jumped in with that Ghanaian group, and I was just vibing, and people thought I was part of the group. They thought that I was from Trinidad. So yes.
So that's Emancipation Day.
Yes. Like, truly, let's understand from a transatlantic perspective Emancipation Day, because that's tying into what happened to our ancestors.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to see how do they embrace and understand and celebrate this experience. Because I'm in Canada, and our Emancipation Day is Simcoe Day.
Right.
And what we're starting to do now is trying to bring links between, the Underground Railroad and the North Star, and how, slaves had escaped to come to the lands we know as Canada.
Right.
But we tie that into the Trinidadian Carnival and have Caravana. So I'm like, I'm going to skip Caravana, and I'm going to go to Trinidad. And I want to experience Emancipation Day. So I even got up at the crack of dawn. They read the Emancipation Proclamation. I saw a reenactment being played out from early in the morning, and I was there meeting different people, other artists as well, and looking at the parade, and I actually jumped into the parade.
Yes, that's like a part of it. You got to jump in.
Jump in, and then going into the Savannah and spending the day in the Savannah at Queen's Park, and
so now that you hear or see a little bit of the wonderful things that she gets to do, you youngins out there who are thinking about, okay, how do I do this? How did you get into this? What was your path? Were you did you, as soon as you knew yourself, this is what I'm going to do?
No, it was an evolving path. I would say it stemmed from, of course, you grew up in Toronto, and it's like, I'm doing what I'm expected to do. Yeah. But I still feel this disconnect to cultural knowledge and cultural heritage, because at the time there was no community center programming that I had at my age.
Yep.
I did do artistic things, like you played the flute, you played the piano, I played cello,
I played the clarinet.
And I realized, okay, that's all fine and good, I'm artistically inclined, but I feel this internal
like a
void and this complete disconnect to any cultural mediums coming from my heritage or anyone's heritage. Like, I wanted to learn. So I kind of delved into, connecting with friends who were of African descent, and we formed a group in high school, and we were doing performances. It started into performing in the community. And then somebody asked me, because they saw me performing, actually, I want you to teach a dance class at this community center. So I actually was asked to start teaching. It's not something I aspired to do.
Okay.
So that meant, okay, this is a bigger responsibility, because now I got to impart information to someone else. But I still feel I'm in the stage of learning. I'm an ongoing student. So I decided to do apprenticeship training and try to find professionals in Toronto to work with. Did my core training, trying to connect with other teachers, whoever I could find. I performed in many groups. I was teaching in the community centers, Parks and Rec, performing, going to school, working. I was doing all of it at the same time. And my evolution from leaving dance companies, like, okay, this needs to be another step. And then I became more involved with teaching and working with different performance groups, members of the Black community, and took my education and tried to combine what I learned artistically and even bring some of those artistic conversations into the dialogue I used to bring into the classrooms to connect things together. So it was sort of a interwoven navigation. It wasn't a straight experience.
Right.
So from there, just connecting with a lot of international teachers and artists, I was going abroad on my own to train. And after, I just continued to do that, come back, and I decided, okay, one step was, I'm no longer going to perform as much as I used to. I'm not part of anyone's company. I'm going to form my own,
right?
Be freelance, and then form my own business. And then I decided to, okay, let's get more education, but we need to also do some professional development at the same time, and then teach. And then from the teaching, okay, I'm going to create programming I don't see that's
Right.
accessible in the community. And that's what I was doing. And then it became this project. Then I was asked to write. Now I'm being asked to be a panelist. I'm asked to do all these different things. So I realized I have all these skill sets. Just bring it together and then present yourself as, this is what I do. I do all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of combine the education with the arts, with everything that I see, and find different ways and multiple entry points to use it as a way to educate.
I see that. Yeah, however you can get to them, you do.
Yes.
And I really have to say, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to say thank you on behalf of the community for blazing a trail. I love the fact that I have the opportunity to speak to people who have literally taken their machete and cut through the field and made a path. And a lot of, like, for example, I'm sure that there are titles you have that didn't even exist when you started.
Yeah, I was simply just, I dance. I
She's a
perform,
dancer.
and I'm a dancer, and I'm in the X company, or X companies, doing these performances. So I'm like, there was a growth that had to happen for me, because there's a point where you just don't want to dance in a company anymore, and just learn someone's repertoire and learn choreography or just gig. You want to take it to another level.
But you've taken it beyond another level, and like you said, you started doing programming and introducing dance in a totally different way, not just as, something to do on a Saturday afternoon for 45 minutes while your mom does groceries.
Yes.
But an actual education, and now
And then include working with my elders.
and bringing in the elders, and I think that's so important because we need to stay connected. So you said that careers in cultural arts, and I guess one of my biggest aspirations is be who I needed. I want to be the person I needed when I was young, and one of the things I desperately needed was direction. How do I get to, first of all, where am I going? And then how do I get there?
Right.
And this is why I really appreciate having people like you on the show. So for anyone else out there that is artistically inclined, that loves dance, loves history, that's obviously a huge part of what you do. And you don't even speak about being a historian.
I'm not a historian.
Well, I feel that you bring it to life, and you make it current, and you make it a part of us, of what we're doing now. So that is so important, because I think that's what has gotten us lost as a community, was that disconnect from our history. One, it was presented to us falsely, and two, especially being first generation Canadians, we come from very well-intentioned people, and one of the things that a lot of them do is try to disconnect you from where they came from. Because this is a better place.
True.
And it's done with the best of intentions. And there was no malice meant, but don't speak with an accent. When you're told don't, your mother speaks like that, but then when you do, you're not supposed to. And a lot of the stories not being told because, a lot of them were unpleasant, but the pleasant ones we often don't get to hear. And I think a lot of that will come through dance. So for those people out there, you talked about careers in cultural arts. What are the options? What can you do with these passions? What becomes, because your parents tell you become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. I like to dance. Okay, so be a teacher.
So I'm a teacher in a different way.
Exactly.
I'm an educator in a different way.
Exactly.
There's so much you can do. Like I said, teaching is one. Writing's another. You could be in arts management.
Arts management.
Yes.
What is that?
Meaning, as you have companies, you need to have a team that knows how to deal with the administration, the management, so that if you are, let's say you want to be a choreographer, you need to work with a team that knows how to bring that production that you're creating into life. Whether it's in a setting, in a studio space, in a stage, a park, wherever, whatever it is, whatever you want to create. You want to work with people who know how to bring the stage lighting. There's people. It employs people who make costumes, musicians. There's different styles. There's different indigenous instruments that we learn from the culture. That's a career as well. They can get hired to be with any band but they have their indigenous instruments.
Right.
So I've worked with live bands as well, even though I'm a dancer. So I've done that as well. So there's a lot of intersections that can happen, that you're not just, I'm just a student and I'm just a teacher. I could be a professor. I could be maybe a historian. I could also be, like I'm in dance media. So I'm writing and talking about dance and reviewing other colleagues' work and trying to make sure those diversified stories get out in other audiences.
So there is a plethora of things that you can do in the artistic community. And for those of you that have taken the business courses that your parents want, and you're doing the administration,
to use that as well.
You use that as well. I mean, it's not that you're off the path. That actually is what the artists need, because I know a lot of artists and they often struggle with that other side.
The administrative and the business side.
Exactly. They love creating art. I don't feel, well, how am I going to sell the painting? I just paint, but you have to sell it so you can buy more paint.
Yes.
So that business
transferable skills
is definitely there. But of course, in all good conversations, we have run out of time.
Okay.
But I'm so grateful that you came. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing your work. You will find you on all social media platforms, Miss Coco Murray. That is correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Miss Coco Murray and MissCocoMurray.com.
And MissCocoMurray.com is the website. So if you'd like to reach out, contact Coco. You know how to find her. Comment, like, share the video with anyone you think it can help, that needs the information, that needs the enlightenment. Again, we thank you here at the TCN family for joining us, and I do hope you come back.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you guys for joining. See you next week.